Good morning, guys. I hope everyone is enjoying their weekend. I hope everyone is doing well. In this video, I want to talk about, this is a part 2 from my previous video as to how Jehovah's Witnesses, their mentality, their mindset, the things that they believe in is just so bizarre. It's so strange, it's so weird. It's out of this world. That's why I always compare the Jehovah's Witnesses to the Twilight Zone show, because it just makes no sense. This religion makes no sense. And like I said before, the mentality of a Jehovah's Witness is so ass backwards. As we know, they speak about secular education. They pretty much demonize secular education. That's because the organization, the governing body leaders, they want witnesses to be as dumb as possible. They don't want them to think critically. They don't want them to go to school, because they know that when you go to school, when you pursue secular education, especially going to college is going to help you to excel. It's going to help you to think outside the box. The governing body leaders of Jehovah's Witnesses, they do not want you to think outside the box. They don't want you to become intelligent. Because you thinking critically is going to work against them. That's why they promote poverty. The more poor you are, the better it is. That is the mindset of a Jehovah's Witness, and that is so bizarre when you think about that, right? They promote poverty. A Jehovah's Witness will quit their job for a 3-day assembly if their employer does not approve that time off for them to go to a 3-day convention or assembly. A Jehovah's Witness would quit their job, and they would feel like they did the right thing in God's eyes, because they feel like it would be better for them to go to a 3-day convention than to not go to the convention and keep their job. They actually have videos on jw.org where brothers with families at that, a wife and kids. I've seen videos where brothers have quit their jobs because it conflicted with their meetings. They were encouraged to quit their jobs and just rely on Jehovah. Just rely on Jehovah to provide. Do you know how bizarre that is? Do you know how weird that is? Where you're instructed not to cater to your family's needs, not to their financial needs, but you're instructed to quit your job. We all need to work. We all got bills to pay, right? We all need a roof over our heads. We all need food in our bellies. We all need clothes on our backs. But a Jehovah's Witness is encouraged to quit their job if it conflicts with their meetings. Like I said before, in this religion, up is down, down is up, white is black, black is white. Everything is ass backwards in this religion. Everything you should be doing, you don't do as a Jehovah's Witness. You do the complete opposite of what you should be doing. And even when it comes to the governing body leaders, right? They tell their members, they go out and blatantly tell their members, we are infallible, we make mistakes, and we are not inspired by God. So, you know who else is not inspired by God? Me, you, and everyone else on this planet, we are not inspired by God. But somehow, because the governing body leaders say that they are God's chosen people, with no facts, mind you. There's no proof, there's no hardcore facts. They just claim to be God's spokesmen on earth. They claim that, right? But they also claim that they're not inspired by God. And I find it so bizarre how a group of men who say, oh, we're not inspired. We don't communicate with God in any shape or form. In any way. We don't communicate with God in any way, in any shape or form, right? And yet you still have millions of people around the world allowing these governing body leaders who are not even inspired by God, not even inspired by God, but yet you have millions of people allowing these men dictate every aspect of their entire life. You know, another thing I find extremely bizarre, how a Jehovah's Witness is instructed to listen to these men, listen to these governing body leaders, like their life depends on it, right? They are instructed to listen to these men, but yet you can't verify that this is the truth. You can't ask questions. You can't do any additional research. You can't even Google your own religion as a Jehovah's Witness. I find this extremely bizarre and weird and just strange how millions of Jehovah's Witnesses are letting their lives pass them by. They are letting their lives slip away. They are giving exclusive devotion to a religion, to an organization in which you can't even verify that what you believe in really is the truth. That is the most, like, when you really think about it, it's like, huh? Just because you have faith in this religion, just because you believe that this is the truth, whether or not, if you was born in this religion, right? The majority of people, of Jehovah's Witnesses, they were born in this. Some found this religion later in life, right? But either way, as a Jehovah's Witness, you're supposed to give exclusive devotion to this religion. This is not a hobby. This is not a part-time gig. This religion, this religion controls every aspect of your life. Every aspect. From what you do in the bedroom, to who you associate with, to the music you listen to the movies that you watch. It controls every aspect of your life. And I find it extremely bizarre, extremely weird, extremely strange how you're supposed to believe that this is the truth. You're supposed to give exclusive devotion to this religion. However, you can't verify, you can't prove, you can't do additional research to prove that this really is the truth. You just have to blindly believe and let your life pass you by. Do you know how weird that is? That is so weird to me. How people will let their lives pass them by, and then when you try to encourage them to do their research on their religion, they go, nah, we don't want to do research. We don't need to do research because we know that this is the truth. And you ask a Jehovah's Witness, well, how do you know for certain if you can't compare this to anything else? If you're only listening to the governing body leaders and they tell you they're not inspired by God, and they also tell you that they make mistakes, how do you know for certain that this is the truth? If the men that you are listening to are not even inspired by God, they are not communicating with God, how can you honestly verify that what you believe in really is the truth? But you see, if you say that to a Jehovah's Witness, right off the bat, they're going to rule you off to be some evil, wicked apostate. Oh, this person is mentally diseased. They're challenging me. They're asking me questions. They're telling me to do research on my religion. This is an evil, wicked apostate that's encouraging me to do research on my own religion. I find it extremely bizarre how they demonize people with sincere questions. They demonize people who have sincere doubts. But yet a Jehovah's Witness will give exclusive devotion to a group of men who are not even inspired by God. Somebody pinch me, somebody slap me silly, because this makes no sense. You see how bizarre the mind is of a Jehovah's Witness? That is the mind, that is the mentality of a Jehovah's Witness. We need no proof. We don't have to do any additional research, and we're gonna demonize and shun anyone who expresses any doubts. Anyone who asks too many questions, we're gonna shun them. When in reality, they should be embracing those who are asking questions. They should be embracing those people. Because it's good to ask questions. If you're lost, if something doesn't make sense, you should be allowed to ask questions. But with Jehovah's Witnesses, like I said, up is down, down is up, black is white, white is black, right is left, left is right. Nothing makes sense. Everything is ass backwards in its religion. The things that you are supposed to be doing, you don't do as a Jehovah's Witness. The Bible says, show love to everyone. The Bible says to love thy enemies. The Bible says to question things, to test things out. Jehovah's Witnesses say, nah. Well, we only love our own kind. We're only going to show love to other Jehovah's Witnesses, even though the second commandment is to love thy neighbor as yourself. The second commandment it doesn't say to love only Jehovah's Witnesses as yourself. It says to love thy neighbor. Your neighbor is everyone on this planet. But Jehovah's Witnesses don't do that. They don't love everybody. They only show love to their own kind. Guys, make this make sense. The Bible says one thing, but a Jehovah's Witness will listen to the governing body leaders over the Bible. The Bible is supposedly inspired by God. The governing body leaders, from their own mouth, tell witnesses they are not inspired by God. So I find it so bizarre, so weird, so strange how a group of men who are not inspired by God can make certain rules and doctrines that go against the Bible, and the Bible is supposedly inspired by God. Like I said, the Bible says one thing. Jehovah's Witnesses do something completely different. The Bible says, love thy enemy. A Jehovah's Witness, they consider the whole world pretty much as their enemy, right? You're either with them or against them. You're either a devout, brainwashed Jehovah's Witness, or you are a wicked, evil person out in the world. There's no in between. There's no gray areas. But if the Bible says to love thy enemy, a Jehovah's Witness would consider someone like me. Jehovah's Witnesses would consider someone like me their enemy, right? Guys, sorry about that. I'm at work. Hold up. I'm at work making this video on my lunch break. But anyway, the Bible says one thing. Jehovah's Witnesses do something completely different. And it pains me that millions of people are being deceived by these leaders, by these governing body leaders. It pains me that a Jehovah's Witness, they have normalized things that are evil, things that are wicked, like shunning. A Jehovah's Witness would say that, oh, shunning is a loving thing. It's a loving arrangement from Jehovah. But we all know that shunning is the complete opposite of love. You see how bizarre that is? How they turn something so cruel, so wicked, so evil. They twisted it and manipulated it to be something loving. Oh, it's a loving arrangement. We shun people because we want them to come to their senses and return back to Jehovah. The mentality of a Jehovah's Witness is so ass backwards, it's not even funny. It's not even funny. I pray that every Jehovah's Witness eventually has the courage, muster up enough courage to do their own research on their religion. Because as we know, once you do your research, eventually you will wake up and see this organization for what it really is. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna end this video. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Take care.